All right, so let's dive right in.
Mhm.
Got your copy of Frankenstein handy?
Ready.
Awesome! Today we're taking a close look at Chapter 3.
Oh, a good one.
Yeah, where young Victor's about to head off to university.
All bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
You'd think so, right? But Shelley throws a major curveball his way.
Doesn't she, though? It's like,
Yeah.
bam, life lesson right off the bat.
Exactly. So Victor's turning 17.
Full of dreams, I bet.
Totally. Excited about going to Ingolstadt, new adventures, fresh start, all that.
Then tragedy strikes.
Yeah. Elizabeth, his cousin, basically his sister.
Adopted sister, right.
Yeah. She gets hit hard with scarlet fever.
And their mother, bless her heart, steps in to care for her.
Even though it's super risky.
Such a powerful act of selflessness.
Yeah,
But it ends tragically.
it really does. Elizabeth pulls through, but their mother catches the fever.
And doesn't make it.
Heartbreaking, right? It sets the tone for Victor's whole emotional journey in the book, I think.
For sure. And it really makes you think about the power of sacrifice.
Like, what would you do in that situation?
Tough question. But it's so interesting how Shelley uses this tragedy.
To show how people deal with grief.
Yeah. Victor, of course, is crushed.
Understandably.
Totally. And he's totally not ready to leave home, leave his family.
Like, he's supposed to be embarking on this new chapter, but...
He's stuck.
Exactly. Grief's got him in a tight grip.
But Elizabeth, on the other hand, she reacts so differently.
Despite her own pain.
Right. She puts her own grief aside, becomes the strong one for everyone else.
Like she's burying her own feelings to take care of everyone.
It's both inspiring and kind of concerning,
Yeah, like, is she really that strong, or is it more like avoiding the pain?
Such a good point. It really speaks to the complexity of her character, I think.
Totally agree. Now, Victor finally heads off to Ingolstadt.
Heavy heart, I imagine.
Absolutely. And there he meets two professors who have wildly different views on science.
Krempe and Waldman, the old guard versus the new school.
Like a clash of titans.
Right. Shelley really sets up this tension between tradition and progress.
So first up is Krempe. Victor describes him as uncouth.
Yeah, not a fan.
And Krempe basically dismisses Victor's fascination with alchemists.
Paracelsus and all those guys.
Yeah, he's like, forget all that old stuff. Modern science is where it's at.
Can you imagine? Poor Victor.
Right, all those years studying those ancient texts, and
Poof. Worthless, according to Krempe.
it's almost funny in a way. This brilliant kid getting schooled by this, well,
Let's just say opinionated professor.
totally. But then Victor meets Waldman.
Oh, Waldman. A breath of fresh air.
Right. He's described as kind, patient,
Totally different vibe from Krempe.
and he doesn't completely trash the old ways of thinking.
He sees value in both the old and the new.
Exactly. He bridges the gap between those ancient alchemists.
And the modern scientific method.
Yeah. And he gives this super inspiring lecture about the wonders of modern science.
The one that really gets Victor fired up.
Oh, yeah. You can practically see the light bulb going off over Victor's head.
Like, whoa, this is amazing.
And it's in this lecture that we start to see those seeds of Victor's dangerous ambition being planted.
Waldman's talking about the power of science, unlocking the secrets of nature.
Commanding the thunders of heaven.
Exactly. And it's almost like he's giving Victor permission to pursue this dangerous path.
Without even realizing it, maybe.
Right. It makes you think about the influence mentors have.
How much responsibility do they have for what their students do?
Big questions. It's like Waldman flipped a switch in Victor's brain.
Yeah, he goes from heartbroken and lost to
Supercharged.
totally. And it's not just about discoveries, right? It's the power Waldman describes.
Controlling nature, like you said.
Commanding the thunders of heaven.
Heady stuff, right. Shelley's dropping hints about ambition getting out of control.
Classic cautionary tale. Playing God, all that.
Right. And Victor, he dives right in, head first.
Doesn't he, though? Practically lives in the lab at this point.
Obsessed. But here's the thing. He goes back to those old alchemists.
The ones Krempe's was like, piffed, forget about it.
Exactly. But Victor senses something there.
He's not afraid to think differently,
He's got that spark, and that's what leads to the big breakthrough.
Unlocking the secrets of life itself.
Shelley's a genius, though, right? Keeps it all mysterious.
Adds to the creepiness.
Totally. But we're right there with Victor, feeling the intensity.
The thrill of discovery. And that little shiver of...
Uh-oh, this could go bad.
Exactly. So he creates the creature.
And the scene, oh man, exhilarating and scary all at once.
Like witnessing a miracle, but with this?
Foreboding.
Yeah, and Victor's reaction.
Not what you'd expect.
Total horror. Like, he's repulsed by what he's made.
You'd think a scientist, right? He'd want to understand it.
But no. Pure fear.
Primal stuff. He's seen too much.
So he runs.
Classic avoidance, right?
Tries to bury the guilt. But we all know.
You can't outrun those consequences.
Nope. And that abandoned creature.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. So we left off with Victor running away from his creation.
Abandoning his responsibility, basically.
Exactly. And it's such a human reaction, you know? Even with all his brilliance, Victor's still flawed.
He can't handle what he's created.
Yeah. It's the dark side of ambition coming back to bite him.
You'd think he'd be more curious, though, right? Like, what did I make? How does it work?
But he's consumed by fear, and that takes over.
And this abandonment, it really sets the stage for everything that follows, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The creature is alone, thrust into a world that doesn't understand it.
And that's where Shelley gets us thinking about what it means to be a monster.
Is the creature born that way, or is it society that makes it monstrous?
Like nature versus nurture, right? The creature starts out innocent.
But it's met with fear, with cruelty, and that shapes its development.
And then it learns the truth about its origins, about Victor rejecting it.
Oh, man. That's where the rage starts building.
The desire for revenge.
And the story takes on this tragic, almost Shakespearean feel.
It's like Victor's ambition has unleashed this force he can't control.
And the creature becomes this dark reflection of Victor himself.
It's a pretty chilling reminder that our creations can have unintended consequences.
Whether they're literal creations or, you know, the things we set in motion with our actions.
Frankenstein is so relevant, even now, centuries later.
It makes us ask, how far is too far with science?
What about those ethical boundaries?
What do we do when things go wrong?
And how do we treat those who are different, who challenge our ideas of what's normal?
Big questions and no easy answers.
Definitely makes you think.
So wrapping up our look at Chapter 3, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Victor's story is a warning.
About approaching those big mysteries, those powerful forces.
With caution, with humility.
And maybe a little bit of healthy fear.
Because sometimes our creations can become our undoing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Frankenstein. We hope you found it insightful and maybe a little bit unsettling.
Keep those questions in mind as you read on, folks.
Until next time, happy reading.